I'd like to show you why knowing your why is the start of your journey. Without a strong why, it can be so difficult to reach your maximum potential. My name is Dr. Jason Balara, and every week I meet with real estate investors and mindset specialists that are taking action in order to build a life according to their own terms. We will break down what drives successful people and allows them to achieve at such a high level. If you are a professional wanting to break through, or simply someone that wants to hear an inspiring story, the Know Your Why podcast is made for you. Hi everyone, I'm Jason Balara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast. Today I'm here with David Richter. David is an active real estate investor, essential in closing over 850 deals in the last 10 years. Looks like you've kind of done it all, David. I know you're also an author, but I want to just give you the opportunity to tell your story, in your words. But first of all, let me start by saying thank you, and thank you for coming on the show today.
Yeah. Thanks for having me here, Jason. And I got started like a lot of other people. I read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad in college because a friend gave that to me. And that's what kind of broke the mindset of going to school, getting a good job, and then just working for 40 years and retiring. So that's where I went out, bought a property right away, did a real estate investing deal. Actually turned it into an awesome one where it was a rental, lived in it for a little bit, then lease optioned it, and then the tenant cashed me out. So it was a great deal, that first one. So then I started working with a company that was doing about 5 deals a month, and we scaled it up to about 25 deals a month, and got to see a lot of deals done there and a lot of different types of deals in the single family space. So that was a really educational journey for me, being there for about 5 years and sitting in different seats in the marketing and sales and acquisitions and, just everything there, transaction coordination, project management, property management, finance. So it was, I got to see the inner workings of a small company as it was growing and scaling. Then from there as well, about 5 years into it, moved across the country, started with another investor, working with him and buying deals in the Richmond, Virginia area. That's where I moved to. And then started my company, Simple CFO, about 3 years ago while I was with that guy, because I saw that a lot of investors make money, but they don't know where it's going, don't know how to keep it, living deal to deal. It's at a lot of the times. And even though we were doing 25 deals a month at one point, we were spending like 26. So it was just, we were in our own rat race, even at a high level. So that's where I saw that there's just a huge need for people that make the money to know where it's going, to direct it better, to keep more of it. So that's why I started my business. That's why I wrote the book, Profit First for Real Estate Investing, because it's a great cash flow system that I love, that helps people know specifically where all their money's going. And then from there, it's just been helping dozens and now hundreds of investors implement this system, and now getting this message out more, because as a real estate investor, I live that life of doing a lot of deals but not seeing a ton of money coming from it, or wondering where the heck did it all go. And that's where now getting into it, just helping more people understand where it is. So that's just a very, very high level overview of my last 10 years of my life. I also got married in there. I have a daughter, and so there's other things about me as well, but that's kind of the work overview.
Yeah. 10 years of life compressed into a 1 minute
Right. Yeah,
quick
exactly.
quick blurb.
Oh man.
um all right, well, I'm going to make you talk about more about that 10 years,
Yeah,
because we
yeah, let's
don't
do
we,
it.
we don't want the podcast to be the 1 minute long. But
Right.
it was I mean, actually really interesting topic, because I can say we haven't really, it's touched on here and there, but it's not something that we've talked about a lot on the podcast. It's something I've definitely noticed, that it's easy to get in that space of, I want to be a real estate investor, and on social
Yeah.
media it looks like real estate investors make so much money, but the reality is especially in the beginning, you're probably not making a lot of money. And I suspect, obviously, this is what you saw. If you're doing
Yeah.
25 deals but spending 26 deals worth of money, it's there's something to be said for, okay, you want to take your money and put it back into the business. But I suspect what you're going to talk about here a little bit is that maybe that's not always what's happening. So where, where along your journey did that realization sort of hit you?
The first place was when I was with that company where we were doing a ton of deals. I got to sit in the finance seat and I learned. I was self taught and helped a lot by the CPA that we had at that time. sat down to learn the numbers and to learn to be able to read the business's story, because those numbers tell a story. So it was like, okay, now let me look at it, and I could see how much were we making, how much were we spending, how much were we keeping. It's like, we're making this much, but we're spending, like above and beyond what we're making. This is not going to keep working. So that's where it really
Right.
first hit me, of just the simple numbers that a lot of people don't know. But that even if you're listening to this and you're like, I'm nowhere near 25 deals. We work with people doing 5 deals a year, and they still don't know that. So like, we've had people doing millions of dollars or just a few deals, and they still have a hard time tracking what did we make on that
Mhm.
flip, or what did we keep anything from it? Did we pour it all back into the business? If you spend, it's easy once you have money come into the business to just spend it, spend. And I'm not against spending, but I want it to be as efficient and productive as possible so you can get what you really want from the business. So that's the first time, was at that company, and being able to then read, like, okay, how much are we making, spending, keeping? And it's like, oh, we're not we're making good money, but then we're spending it all, and we're not able to keep very much of it at the end. Then from there, it was, go figure, that company didn't, like, a lot of people went different directions from that company because it wasn't sustainable. So I moved across the country and went to another investor, and it was very eye-opening, because the first thing I said was, you say you have a great company, I believe you, I trust you, but I want to trust but verify. I want to look at your numbers, like, show me because the numbers won't lie. And then it was the same thing that I've seen over and over again with real estate investors. Opened up his books, and they were a mess. The person who was doing them wasn't real estate, didn't know real estate investing. He didn't know how to manage them because he's a real estate investor. We go after the deals. I mean, I get that. So it's like, that's where he didn't even have the proper setup to know what he was making, spending, keeping. And he always was wondering, I mean, from almost day one, where's my cash? Where's all my money gone? And that's where I just saw, this is a huge epidemic. I'd be also going to mastermind events too. People would be like, yeah, we're doing $2 million a year. And then in the bar, they're like, where in the world is it all? Like, they're crying because they don't,
Yeah.
they can't even pay themselves a living wage
Right.
at that point. And so I saw that just as a huge need in the space. And so with that guy, from when I moved to Virginia, I said, let me help you. Let me fix this stuff. Let me help you get a lot of this stuff so you can be clear where you are. So we did. We cleaned a lot of it up, said, here you go. Here's what you're making, spending, keeping, like those 3 simple numbers. And then he had a portfolio as well too. So I said, here's some clarity around your portfolio. Like, here's what you are into these properties. Here's the loans on them. And versus the ARV, you have like 70% equity. You've been dumping a lot of your own cash into your own rental portfolio. So if you've been trying to drive down what you owe on them, great. But if you're like, hey, I want some of that money back, we could refinance. So I did. I helped him refinance. He got several $100,000. I'm like, oh my gosh, how many other investors out there right now have money that is literally sitting in front of their face? They just don't know about it. And that's why right after that, I got a call from my mentor, because he heard, like, hey, I heard you're starting a company, because that guy from Virginia said, this has been life-changing. Know what I'm making, spending, keeping. I've been able to refinance, like, just having this clarity to make these decisions. So I said, I have to start this company. Got a call from my mentor. He said, read Profit First, the book by Mike Michalowicz. So I read that book right then and there, like that evening, took 10 pages of notes, and said, this is great. You know why? This is a great framework for being able to help the entrepreneur tell every dollar where to go. Like, it's a simple system. It deals with cash. I don't have to speak accountanese or anything like that. Like, I just have to speak the language of money, like dollar bills.
Right.
So I'm like, we can all understand that, because we're all going to manage the cash no matter what. So that's what sparked that. And then about a year into it, after implementing the Profit First system with people and seeing businesses go from, like that one guy, from just where's all my cash to having the cash and having the direct numbers of, this is where we are, this is what we're making, spending, keeping. Then about a year into it, I went back to Mike Michalowicz and said, I know real estate because that's my background. Even though I look like an accountant, bookkeeper, like, no, my background is real estate investing. I just created a company with a lot of great, CPAs and CFO type people on the team. But I said, I'd love to write the real estate book, because real estate's a different monster. It's a different animal than a brick and mortar business or a service-based business or something like that, like the original Profit First is for. So then he was like, yeah, let's do it. So I wrote that book. So that's kind of where the whole journey came to, because I saw so many people doing the same things we were doing, living deal to deal, at 25 deals a month, and we've seen people doing that 2 to 3 deals a month. So that's where one of the first clients we took on, one of the first clients, he was doing about 2 to 3 deals a month, but spending 80, 100-hour weeks. His wife started working in the business. She started having seizures. Like, it was nuts. It was crazy. One of the first things we do with investors is we sit down and say, what do you really need from your business? What do you need to keep? We focus on that keep number first. Like, we have to have the end in mind. Go figure, right? We have to know where we're going in order to get there. So the first thing we say is, what's the bare minimum you need from your business? So we at least make sure you're not like gasping for air all the time and just, suffocating yourself and sacrificing everything, on the altar of, it'll work out with the next deal. So that's what we did with him, sat down, and it turns out instead of having to do 2 to 3 deals a month, which he got hyped up on masterminds and other events, he only needed to do 5 deals a year. 5 deals a year versus 2 to 3 a month. And it was like, what? Like, what in the world? So that's where a lot of people that come to us and a lot of people we're trying to help, and why this book is even out, is more not just to help you manage the cash, but to help you understand that if you're living that deal-to-deal lifestyle, or if you're living paycheck to paycheck as an entrepreneur, or deal to deal like that as a real estate investor especially, then please you don't have to. There's a better system, there's a better way, so that way you don't have to live like that anymore and have to be thinking, I hope that next deal closes, or where's my next meal coming from? Like, we've had some clients come through our door that are literally hand to mouth, like the deal closes, they have to transfer the money right away, then some of these bills aren't going to be paid. So, and I'm not knocking people that live there, because you know why? You just said, you said right before you asked this question that we don't really talk about this much. No one does. No one talks about the cash much, because number one, they think it's boring. And then number two, no one's really got a good grasp on it, and they don't know how to teach it. And that's what caught fire for me with Profit First. It's like, this is a simple message. It's a very simple system built for the entrepreneur. And it's like, if you're going to have systems for sales and for marketing, for operations, you better have a system to catch the money too, for your finances, so you're actually keeping it. So that's where a lot of people aren't preaching this message out there, but that's why I'm like, I want the book out there. I don't want you to have to work with me to get the knowledge. I want you to have this podcast that you're listening to now. If you listen to other podcasts, or if you wherever that I'm out there speaking, or the book or whatever, just getting that message inside of you, because you know what it really boils down to? Good habits. Because a lot of people have bad money habits growing up. They heard, go to school, fall in line, do those. If you fail, you're a failure. Like, they hear all these things. And then when it comes to money, a lot of parents said money doesn't grow on trees. No, you can't have that. No, we can't afford that. No, we can't go that place. No, we can't do this thing. Why? Because of the money. And that's where a lot of people have those stigmas around money. Then they get into business, and they think going from a W-2 job to business owner is going to magically transform them to have good business habits and to be a good business owner and to think like a business owner. And that's where we get caught up with the marketing and sales, and which is great. Revenue should always be in first position. We also need to say that if I'm going to make this money, I better learn how to keep it too. So that's why not only just learning, okay, I need to make sales, I need to listen to podcasts, I need to listen to courses or go to events that teach me how to lock up deals or how to make sales, then I also need to make sure that I'm keeping it as well too, that there's a simple system behind the scenes, because that's where, if you want to have the true financial freedom that everyone thinks comes with business ownership, then you don't need to be doing more deals. You need to be handling the money better. Because it doesn't matter how much money you're making, it matters how you manage it. Because someone making $1 million like we were, like some months or some years or whatever, but we were spending 1.1 is poorer than someone who does $200,000 a year but keeps 100,000 of it. So that's what we're really trying to get out there, is that how you manage it, and giving those every dollar a name that comes into your business is really the key to that financial freedom. You have to have the deals. I'm not saying that you can't focus on the deals, or that you should focus more on the finances. I'm just saying you need a simple system. You need to set it up. You need to make sure it's running well. You need to make sure you have the discipline to stick to it. And then do as many deals as you can, because if you know how to keep more of it, then the more that you're making, the more you will keep. But that's where a lot of people have it reversed. They think that their income is going to outgrow their spending, and we know that never does. that as our income grows, if we have the same habits, our spending grows with it, just in line. Okay, well, now we're making 100, now we're spending 100. Now we're making 200, now we're spending 200. That's usually how it goes in a business. Is just that we're going to spend everything, but that's where we have to make sure that we're not running an accidental nonprofit as a real estate investor, that we're
Right.
running a real for-profit business, because the purpose of the business is to make a profit. But the purpose of the person, though, even what your podcast is named, their why, the purpose of that person is to have that financial freedom, whatever that means to them. Going on trips, going on those adventures, just sleeping in, having more money, a different car, giving to people and giving to causes, whatever it is for that person. That profit, I like to say profit unlocks their purpose. That's really what profit does. So at the end of the day, we need that profit. We need good habits as a human being. So that way, I love what Keith Cunningham says in his books. He's a prolific business writer, and he says that if you scale cancer, the tumor grows. So you don't want to be scaling a cancerous business if the root cause is bad habits and bad decisions. So that's where we have to get something in place there. I know that was a long-winded answer, but I've got a lot to say on this topic, and there's
No.
just so much to unpack from this whole system and just the mindset that a lot of people have.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it because it also, it's just, I mean, I'm sure people listening will, but I'm resonating with this very much. It's a funny thing because, of course, yes, a lot of people become entrepreneurs, they get into real estate because they think I'm going to make money. That's not, again, you pointed out, like, that's not your why, but like you think that's going to happen.
Right.
And I can tell you 100%, like, my passive investors make more money than I do on my real estate investments. Like and I invest as a passive investor in those investments. So I guess I'm making, but the passive side makes more money than the active side, and for sure. And I think the expectation is that someday that flips, but you're right. If you scale cancer, then tumor grows. So yeah, you've got to be handling that growth so that you're not just spending more and more. So tell us, let's start almost backwards. Like, what are the mistakes that people are making that lead, obviously, I think you sort of pointed out that idea of lifestyle creep where we just spend more and more, but what are the things that people are missing commonly, I guess, in these instances?
Number one, they build their business around the hope and pray plan. That's what that guy was doing when he came to us, one of the very first clients, and said, doing 2 to 3 deals a month, trying to kick butt, trying to do everything. And it's like his business was the hope and pray plan. I hope I do enough deals and I pray that there's money left over at the end of the year. And it's like at the end of that first year, even though he was busting butt, he lost $70,000. So he did more deals than he's ever done and lost more money than he's ever lost, because that's why he built his business on the hope and pray plan versus the no, living in the land of knowing versus the land of hoping. So now he knows that he only needs 5 deals a year. That's what he needs to break even with his family, to make sure that the bills are paid in the business and to make sure that like things can keep going. But that's where just having that number gave him freedom right away. It said, I don't have to bust my butt and do more deals to do what I need to do for my family and where I am. And that's different for every investor. We've done that same analysis, and it's been 20 deals for other people, but they have a bigger team already. They've got more systems in place. They've got things rolling. So that's where, what is it for you? What do you need to keep from your business? There's so many people like him that I love this story, and if you'll indulge me, in a quick story from Crucial Conversations, Chapter 10, the book. It's a great book, and it's an incredible book for communication skills. And they call Chapter 10 Retaking Your Pen. Because picture you're born with a pen in your hand, and when you're like 0 to 4, you're writing your own story. Your pen represents your self-worth. Then you go to school at some point, probably more junior high, high school, and you start caring about what your friends think, what are they wearing, what are they saying, how are they acting, what should I wear, what should I do, how should I act, and then you conform to them. So you give them your pen, they start writing your story, then you feel yuck, like what the heck, why do I feel nasty all the time? You're not being true to yourself. You don't have your self-worth anymore. You're letting other people define it. Then, if you're listening to this podcast and you follow Jason, you probably at some point took back your pen or want to take back your pen and say, hey, I'm starting this business, or I'm a passive investor, or like I'm an active real estate investor, business owner, whatever, I'm going to take back my pen and I'm going to write my story. So now you're writing your story. You get to author your terms for life. But then, just like this guy, that was that first client, he said he went to different events, listened to different things, went to different places, meetups and the RIAs and all that, and saw the people doing 2, 3, 10 deals a month, said, I want that. Well, then he just gave up his pen again. Even though he took it back to start his company, he gave it up so that way other people were telling him, this is how much I think you should do. And it's like, what the heck? So that way he gets burned out, is $70,000 upside down, and saying, what the heck? Where did all my money go? Why am I letting these people write my story? So that's where we had to help him take back that pen and say, what do you need from your business? That's what you need to keep. That's taking back your pen and not letting anyone else write your story or tell you what your worth is. You are this. This is what you and your family need. So then took back his pen. That first year, went back to his CPA at the end of the year, and she said, what the heck happened? Like, well, you were $70,000 in the whole last year. Now you're so positive, even with some of your rentals and depreciation, you owe taxes. And he's like, I took back my pen. Like, I know what I needed from my company, and I didn't have to be working the 80, 100-hour weeks like I thought I did. Didn't have to have my wife working there. I didn't have to, like, try and grow. It was more going deeper and really being about what do we need from the business. So that would be number one. Stop living in the land of hoping and transition to the land of knowing. I know I need this from my company. I know this is my keep number. What do I need on a monthly basis to maintain my lifestyle and to make sure that I'm not going to go crazy and like be barking at everyone because I'm not paying myself? The second biggest mistake that I see is that all business owners and real estate investors especially, most of them have one big bank account. All money goes in, all money goes out, and it's just a jumbled mess. What the heck is going on in my business? But then that's how they manage the money in their business. That's how they make financial decisions, is with that one bank account and living from confusion. Then they make decisions from confusion. And they say, okay, I have money in there today. I feel great. Let me run this new marketing campaign. Let me buy this thing. Let me do this. Let me hire this employee, whatever. Then next week, where's all the money? No one spend anything. All the credit cards need to be frozen. It's like then they go into panic mode when there's not money in the account. So it's constantly not even deal to deal. It's the ups and downs of just, oh my gosh, where's the money? Today there's a bunch. Yesterday there wasn't. Like whatever it might be. So that's where a lot of people have one big bank account, and that gives you zero clarity of what's yours, what's the IRS's, what's for profit, what's to pay yourself, what's for payroll, what's to grow the business, all the different things that go with a business ownership. That's why with that's what I love about Profit First. It helps you give every dollar a name, just like the envelope system. And Dave Ramsey's made that very popular, love him or hate him. I like some of his principles, and that's one. You give every dollar a name. You set up different bank accounts, and you call them specific things. There's 5 fundamental accounts in the Profit First system. There's income, and then the first 3 I call the Golden Trio because I'm a Harry Potter fan and a Star Wars fan. I love big epic sagas, and in those sagas, they always have 3 main heroes pushing the story forward for good. Your business is your epic saga. You need to make sure you're winning in the end, that you conquer Darth Vader and the, Voldemorts of the world. So that way you have these 3 accounts: profit, owner's comp, and then owner's tax, to make sure you're separating out what you need to keep. Those 3 help you keep more. Profit is icing on the cake. Owner's comp to pay yourself a monthly salary, whether it's a bi-weekly, weekly, or monthly, that you're taking out of the business. And then owner's tax, making sure that if you owe taxes, you're spreading that out over the year versus, shoot, it's tax time, I got to do 4 more deals right now. So that's 3 of the accounts. Then I said income, that's to hold all the deposits. Then OPEX, that's the bad guy of the business. That's where you're spending all the money. That's where everything goes out. You already have that one. Income is where you know what you're making. That's where the deposits sit, and until you transfer the money to the rest of the accounts. So that way now you have very clear, where's my money going? It's coming into income. That's how much we make. Here, I'm going to transfer it to the Golden Trio first to make sure we're keeping what I need, because if I don't survive this business, no one else is. And then the OPEX account is what we're making, is what we're spending. So I transfer money there to make sure that we're spending enough to make enough and to keep enough. So that's where you just set up a simple system like that with bank accounts, like something simple. I have not talked about a P&L, a balance sheet, anything like that. We could go deeper into that side. But I just want you to manage the cash better, because you're already going to look at your bank account. You already had that one big bank account where everything's going in and out of. You might as well spread it out and say, this is where all my money is and what I need for these different areas of my business. So those would be two of the biggest ones that I would see and that I see in the real estate world is number one, you're living on that hope and pray plan. And then number two, you have that one big bank account where all the money's going in and out of. You have no idea where it's going. There's a simple fix for both of those. And you need to make sure that you start putting those in place right away because they'll help you develop better habits as a business owner. That's really what we're going after, is that no matter what happens in the market, you're going to have good habits. You're going to be able to say, I don't spend every single dollar that I make. That's really what wealth is. Wealth is not spending $1 million. Wealth is being a millionaire and keeping $1 million. That's really what we're going after, is those good habits that make us wealthier and not just richer.
Yeah. I mean, all great points. And I think, like I said, it really resonates. And I'm sure it does with a lot of people, whether you're in real estate or business or just in your home finances, right? It's all kind of important stuff. But the reality is it's something that a lot of us put like on the back burner, right? It's like, I'll figure that out later. I'll figure that out later. And you're
and then on their second business, after they've crashed and burned or they've burnt out, then they're like, yeah, I should probably do something like that. There's been so many people. We've been in an up market for the last few years, and the market has covered a lot of sins. Now it's uncovering a lot of those sins. Mm-hmm. So now a lot of people are like, I need to get around my finances. We've seen an uptick of people coming on board as clients and stuff because they know like that what we're teaching here is not just some flash in the pan, get rich market, get rich quick scheme. This is the, how do I want to be wealthy 10 years from now? Or 20 years from now? How do I want to pass on this wealth? How do I want to make sure tomorrow I have enough money in my account? That's really what it's about. We're trying to help people with, you're already going to manage the money. We just don't want you to be a piss poor management of that money. Like I don't want you to be like, where the heck is it all going? Where is my cash? What am I supposed to do with it? I want you to be very confident. This is where I put my money. This is what I'm making in the income. These 3 buckets are for keeping to make sure I'm keeping more of it. And then this OPEX is what I'm spending. Then you can review real easily as the business owner then on a monthly basis. How much did I came into income? How much went out from OPEX? And then those 3 keep accounts, that golden trio, what did I keep from the business? So that way you can, even if you don't have a finance person on your team or you don't even speak the accounting language, which I get a lot of people don't want to, like you said, we'd rather put it on the back burner. We'd rather, saw off our own foot a lot of the times than look at the numbers. But that's where if you are already looking at your bank account, can you do a quick, okay, print out your deposits from last month and say, how much was it that came in? How much went out? How much did I transfer to my keep accounts? So I'm actually seeing if it's growing every month. Am I getting better or is this getting worse? Like, am I going into the hole? That's another thing I love about the system. It usually shows people yellow flags instead of red flags. Meaning, like, if you don't have enough for OPEX, it's like, okay, if I'm having to supplement OPEX from another account, I know something's wrong. I'm not making enough to make sure the business keeps going. So that way, instead of running out of money completely in your one account, you're going to make sure that, okay, if my OPEX is getting too low and I have to fund it from somewhere else, whoa, what's going on? Why aren't we making enough to just fund our normal everyday expenses or even the above and beyond ones? Like, what's going on? Are we not making enough that we should? Or did my expenses go nuts? It just gives you a trigger warning. So that way okay, well, that's not working out. We better do something here. So that's why, like you said, a lot of people aren't talking about it. A lot of people don't want to look at this stuff. It's like there's simple solutions to it. And even if you don't want to set up, then okay, you might need someone like what we do to come by and hold accountable and to make sure that it's going well. Or pick up the book. Self-implement. I hold nothing back in the book. It's not like, oh, I'm giving you 90% of it or 20% of it. You need to come to me for the rest of it. It's like, no, this information is too valuable. Like, please get it a part of you, who you are, and then start setting it up small. Like you said, even in your personal life, can you set up one different bank account, call it freedom in your personal life, and say, what freedom are you working towards? Is that to buy a business? Is that to start a business? Is that to buy your first property? What is that to create the freedom you want in your life?
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. And it's I'm sure many people can relate to this and it probably relate to the lack of doing it, not so much relate to, I did this and got everything on track. So would you tell people, kind of, I think obviously get the book, that's a really good first step.
Yeah.
Whether they want to come and be coached by you as well. That's all good steps. But it sounds like maybe the first thing you have to figure out is what you really need out of the business, right?
Yes.
Because
that would be step number one. Step
yeah.
number one, sit down, especially if you have a significant other, like a spouse, or if a business partner who also has to bring home something from the business. Sit down with those people and say, what do we need from the business? We need to make sure that it generates enough to keep the business going, of course, but also to pay us X on a monthly basis. How fast can we get there? That would be number one. Find that keep number as soon as humanly possible.
Yeah. And because that as you mentioned, that story, they went from to only needing to do 5 deals a year. A lot of people do get caught up right away in how can I scale this? How can I grow this? Especially if you're as we're in a hot market, right? So everybody in real estate specifically was like, do deals, just as many as you possibly could. Cause it's like, I'm going to make so much money in this time. Yeah. And I don't even think that's not necessarily, and you said this too, but like not a bad thing. Like, no. I forget what the saying is, like make hay while the sun shines, or whatever that is. But like, but that's going to be easier and more profitable if you already have these systems in place, right? Like your idea is, okay, we can do this whether if we're doing 5 deals a year, but we can also do it if we're doing 25 or 50 deals a year, where it's there.
That guy now, 3 years later, is doing more than 5 deals a year. And he has a whole lot more money. He called me in June. Okay, when we're recording this podcast, it is the end of 2022. We're like within like a month of the end. He called me in June, so about 5-6 months ago at this point, and said, I filled up my accounts, all these accounts, till the end of the year. So like he went from losing 70,000 to doing what he needed to do to now he's doing more than what he needs to do. He's building those reserves, those buffers, getting to spend time with his kids. He also, I could go into on and on about what he's done. He gives to a camp for kids. It's awesome stories, and he was able to give $70,000 this year to that camp from one account where he was in, $70,000 in the hole 3 years ago. So that's where, if you build these habits and this system wherever you are, if you're on deal 1 or deal 5, especially as you start growing, you're going to see an exponential return. Just because you're making more now means you're going to keep more if you have a system like this in place. So if you're doing 25 deals now and you're like, shoot, I've missed the boat. No, we've had people come in our door doing 25, 30 deals a month, and it's like, how quickly can we get the ship to be righted? Like, if it's out of whack or if it's like upside down, how can we get it to be even keeled? And then how can we make sure that going forward they're good? Because we've had huge people that we're working with that as well that now have 6 months reserves in their owner's comp account. So if the business did tank, they'd be okay for 6 months without having to worry. So it's like, how quickly can we get that? So if you start wherever you are, start that habit today, you're going to be thanking yourself years from now saying, man, I'm glad I started that system. I'm glad I started at day 1 with this, because now, you know what the money does for me? It does not just fuel jets and cars and whatnot. It fuels me getting this message out more. If I didn't have a system in place that was paying me, that I don't have this huge stress of like, where's my next, meal going to come from? Since I don't have that, what can I focus on? Helping more people. I can make a bigger impact. I could go out there. I could be on this podcast. I could go speak. I can partner with different people. I can grow the business in order to help more people. That's what we all want to do at the end of the day, is we want to make sure we're making enough money to fulfill whatever our purpose is. So that's really what we're trying to get to. So I keep taking it over. This is, as you can tell, I just really like this
No, it's great.
Conversation.
I love it. I love it, the passion. And I think, you kind of got to something there that I'm passionate about in why I think growth, what you set that keep number, what you need to, but why I think it's, aside from like the drive to grow, why I think that growing beyond that is good. And that's impact. And that's the, the giving back and all of that. Yeah. And it's whether that's from a time perspective or a money perspective. And you said that client was able to give $70,000, like maybe at some point, you can tell me how this fits in your system, but maybe at some point you've got another bank account that is your like impact bank account that that just, this is where we filled all the other ones and we're starting to funnel into here, and how quickly, how big can we make that
Right,
account? I think
exactly.
is gets fun.
A lot of our clients are people of faith, so they have a giving account that they set up right away. Or if they're not of faith, we've still got a lot that are just generous. They want to make an impact. They have the giving account and they set it up as one of their first accounts, because with this system, there's 5 fundamental accounts, but there's more than that you can set up for your business. Some people set up marketing. They want to know subset of OpEx, of a sub bank account of, okay, this is how much we're to run the business, this is how much to put into marketing to fuel the business. So it's like, what do you want clarity on? Then we do. Like him, he set up a given account almost from day one and said, okay, I want to start this camp for kids, and I want to put X amount of dollars into here. So that's where this system is not just about, getting you out of your rat race. That's like step 1. We need to make you the business owner and having a business that funds you. But then from there, funds what you were built for and what you were created for, and making sure that, okay, from here, what is that purpose? It might be an account for you. It might be vacations. It might be spending time with family. It might be, giving to a camp or whatever it might be. So that is, we have a lot of people, they come in and they say, they see the power of the system like that. And they're like, you mean if I just set up another account, I could have a percentage, maybe a smaller percentage going there at first, but then I could start giving, right away. And that's where so many people think one day for a lot of things. One day I'll have profit, or one day I can give, or one day I'll be able to get out of this rat race. One day I'll make more than I'm spending. And that one day never comes. And then they say, you know what? A bank account and having a visual, tangible thing that I can look at my bank and say, can I pay myself? Yes. Ooh, and I can give as well too. It might not be $1 million or whatever you want to give, what your goal is, but that's where we have to start somewhere. We have to start somewhere, and especially on the road to financial freedom. We have to start somewhere. Just because you started the business does not mean you started the road to financial freedom completely. That's like, okay, that might be the first brick, but then from there too, we have to make money. Then we have to make sure we're keeping it as well too, to build that road all the way to our financial freedom place. So that's where a lot of people set up other accounts as well too, right from the very beginning. That's around what matters to them.
Yeah. Is it something that with the clients that you're working with, is this something that you sort of annually go through and reassess, or how does it work as they grow? Like, I know you said you've been touching in with this gentleman, but how do you typically approach that?
We're very hands-on. We're a fractional CFO service. So what that means is you get a part-time CFO on the team for a fraction of the cost of a full-time chief financial officer. So they're a financial leader on the team. They come in and we have different plans. Do you want to meet monthly, bi-weekly, or weekly, depending on the size of your business and where you are right now, and how often you need someone holding you accountable to the profit first system and to knowing your numbers and being able to have strategic conversations about your money and being able to say, where do we need to, and our conversations are all around 3 different numbers: make, spend, and keep. Do we need to help you make more this month? Do we need to help you spend less or spend in the right areas? Or do you need to keep more? So it's like, that's what we build our framework on. And then it's usually at the very least a monthly call, and at the most it's usually weekly with a lot of the people we're working with, to be able to help them on their journey with their finances, because this number one, or if they've had a bad experience with a CPA or bookkeeper in the past, and they're like, I don't ever want to have that again, so I'm just going to give them my stuff, and hopefully they just email me and I don't ever have to talk to them. They're scary, they're mean, they're old and crotchety, or whatever it might be. It's like, that's where I wanted to make sure that you had someone that could come in and speak business owner and not just accountanese, and not just the language of accounting. I wanted them to be able to talk with you and talk as an equal, and to say, hey, this is what we need to do on the financial side. These are the steps we need to take. We set up a CFO dashboard for people, so it's real easy to see where the numbers are. We do a lot of things to make it very easy on the owner. So that's what we do in a nutshell. But it's very just, if you can just get the message of don't spend more than you're making. It's like, that's really what it comes down to, is those habits. Give every dollar a name. Like, I'm trying to make it as simple as humanly possible here, because people always complicate things, especially when they're first learning something new. And I would just say, if you listen to this, the first thing I would do, find that keep number. What do you need to keep from your business? Then, and what impact do you want to make too? I mean, like, give yourself that North Star for yourself. And then number 2, set up an account. Maybe you could set up all the ones that I suggested, or maybe set up one, call it profit, transfer 1%. Like, start somewhere from this podcast. Don't just listen to it. Take action so that way you can see a return. You can see a return from it. I did that one time with a guy on his podcast, and he said he set it up, an account, like from that, and he just set up one account, did it real easy. He said 6 months later, because he was doing a good volume of deals, he had like 6 figures in there that he had forgotten about. And I'm like, that's it. Where? And he was like, where was this money going before?
Right.
It was just like,
Yeah.
what the heck is going on here?
Right.
So that's where I was like, that's where, if you just set it up and you see the system start to work, it forces you to have better habits and to direct the money better. So that's where I just tell people, set up one account. You might not get at 6 figures in 6 months, but you can get maybe to 3 figures, 4 figures, 5 figures maybe as fast as possible. So that's where just do those first 2 steps. Find your keep number, set up at least one account from here, and start transferring money into there.
Yeah, no, that's a great piece of advice. David, I honestly think this is a tremendously important topic. We could talk about a bunch, but let me switch gears here so I can get to ask you the questions I ask every guest. And certainly we'll point towards your book and your coaching system. But let me start just every guest. The name of the podcast is Know Your Why. So what is your why? I can tell you're clearly very passionate about this this line of helping people. So certainly that's obviously a part of it, I would imagine.
There's a few things that drive me. Number one, it is being able to see other people start to fulfill their why, because now they have the money to do it. Because a lot of people need money to fuel why they're here or to become more of what they're doing. I know a lot of people give back in different ways, but a lot of people that we're working with, they've been gifted with the gift of business acumen. They can make money. That's a very specific skill that not everyone on planet Earth has. So it's like they're using that, and then what do they want to do? So that's number one. It's pretty cool getting to see other people make this impact and to have, help them and guide them on their journey in that. Then number two is I started my business because as a W-2 employee, I wasn't making enough to give what I wanted to give. I want to be given $1 million annually by the 10th year in business to different causes. And right now we're doing, 5 to 6 figures, and we've given more than that away up to this point. So that's another reason as well. And then obviously I want to make sure that I'm making as big of an impact as I can. It's awesome impacting our clients, but like this book, like anything, I know this book, I'm not looking to sell 1 million copies unless 1 million people would read it and take it to heart. That's really what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get this message out there. So that's really what's driving me. Why I get on a bunch of podcasts. I was on like 4 or 5 the last 2 weeks, and that's where I want to make sure that if I'm out there speaking, that I'm speaking as simply as possible, as plainly as possible, because it's so critical, not just in a down market, but at any time that you could not have to stress out as much as you are with your business and with your money currently. So that's another thing that drives me as well too, because I feel like this is such a huge pain point, because so many people have financial anxiety that it's the number one of the top causes for divorce, one of the top causes for running out of business, like going out of business. It's like a lot of the things that we do in our life, personal and professionally, focus around this. So it's like, can we get good habits here from some of them that we've never learned about? So those are a couple of things that, what are my why, and keep them going. I have a wife and daughter too. So it's like, I want to make sure they're taken care of, that I'm passing on to my daughter as well too in the next generation what is being taught here. So just a lot of things that keep me going and want me to keep coming back on podcasts, things like this.
Yeah, no, I love it. Well, this is off topic, but I like it. I think it helps people know you a little bit better. But tell us something about yourself that isn't common knowledge, special skill, a hobby, outside of saving people money.
I took Kung Fu for 2 years while I was in Virginia, and that was probably one of the best personal development experiences of my life, because I love reading. I love going to the conferences and masterminds and those types of things. But having personal discipline, learning a hard skill, and getting punched in the face, there's something about those combination that you can't just BS there. There's a master that's been there for 30, 40 years that's like, you can't just float around there. You can't just skate by. So that was and I liked Kung Fu specifically. It was a Wing Chun branch where there's no belts or anything. It's not that that there's always this goal. It's more of a mindset. It's more of can I just get better? Can I do more today than I did yesterday? That's really what it was about. So that was, if that's why growing up, I thought, oh, it'd be cool to have a skill like that. And then going into it, I'm like, this is awesome. I get to work out and have a skill. And then it did a lot for my mindset, my mentality. I still do exercise today. I still do, keep active. I'm not actively going there now because I moved and that was the best one in the country. But that's where now it's just like that was a great skill that I learned where now I could feel, number one, that I could at least protect my wife and daughter. If we were out on the street, I at least have enough skills over those 2 years to at least be a dangerous enough. I'm not a master at any point, but it's like I learned enough basic skills. And then the mental part of it of just doing something hard. Do something hard and get kicked in the butt, a bunch of times, get bruises and be like, what the heck is going on here? And then, just keep going. You power through it, you get better, and then your skills grow. So I think that's one thing that a lot of people don't know about me. I don't publicize that a lot, but was probably one of the best personal development experiences for me.
I love it. I love it. I've been learning to box a little bit.
Awesome.
And it's this, getting hit in the face it'll wake you up. But
Right?
it is it's remarkable how much, it's very physical, but how much mental.
Oh yeah.
Like how involved that part of it is. Just all if you're going to do it right, like, you could go swing away, but like if you're going to do it right and you're working with someone that knows how to do it and they're just, whatever they're watching and they're like, your hand turns a little bit this way, like,
yes.
Hey, you dropped your hands again, you're gonna get punched in the face. Like, it's just kind of all of that stuff that is it's just, as you said, it's more of a personal development thing. And I don't really want to actually get punched in the face, but it is something that makes you sort of grow physically and mentally at the same time. So really cool. When people hear this and they want to reach out to you, what's the best way?
SimpleCFO.com. You can find there, SimpleCFO.com, the link to our book, which just takes you to Amazon. And then we've got a link to our podcast, the Profit First REI podcast. The only thing we're talking about there is people that have implemented the system, giving other people hope. Like you said, like not a lot of people are talking about it. So we're trying to talk about it as much as humanly possible. And then the other one is if you want to book a call with our team, with what we do 3 main things. For every person, we lay the financial foundation. Number 1, look at your financial systems and processes and your team. Number 2, implement Profit First. And number 3, set up a CFO dashboard to track those numbers so that way you can know what am I making, spending, keeping, and confidence, clarity creates confidence. Confidence creates better decision making. That creates more money in your pocket. So that's what we're trying to do and trying to help a lot of people in the real estate world and really helping, we're working with over 100 people on a monthly basis now. So if you go to simplecfo.com, you can either schedule a call, listen to the podcast, get the book, do something. I would just say from this, listen to this and like find your keep number. If that's all you do from this, you'll be at light years ahead of other investors just knowing this is what I need from my business. But Simple CFO, like Chief Financial Officer, simplecfo.com.
Perfect. You may have just already answered the last question, but I'll let you kind of expand upon it if you want. But basically, what would you tell someone who's getting started, right? A lot of times I say getting started in real estate, but I think we can apply it to what you're doing here and getting started to get their finances in order. I think is probably the best way to ask it.
Number 1, find that keep number. So we've beat that. We've beat that horse. Yep. Then number 2 is that if you set up a bank account in your business, make it the profit account. In your personal finances, that would be like a freedom account. Just set up something else so that way every time money comes in, you're pushing that money there. But honestly, from here, what you could do, the best thing you could do is pick one of the things. We talked about a bunch of different actions you could take. Pick one thing and just do it. If it's reading the book and you say, this is great, then from the book, there's a lot of action steps in there and a lot of different things you can do. Pick one thing from the book then. Just take it one step at a time. You're not going to be able to say, okay, from this podcast, I'm going to just rewind it. I'm going to set up all the accounts. I'm going to start transferring because there's a lot more that, that you could get into if you wanted to. That's the other thing. Don't complicate it. You could read the book. You could get all those things, but make sure it works for you. I'm trying to give you a good habit. A lot of people, I've got a Facebook group as well. A lot of people in there. Well, what if I have this situation? What if I have that situation? I'm like, does this make your life easier or harder? Okay, go with the one that makes it easier. I don't want you to set this up and say, oh man, I'm not sure if I transferred the right amount of money. I'm not sure if I did this right. The point is to not spend every dollar you make. If you accidentally transfer too much money and you aren't able to support your business that first month, then transfer the money back out. Like, I'm not good. Just because you mess up the first time, don't stop the system.
Right.
That's the worst thing you could do. The worst two things you could do, number one, is not do anything from this podcast. Number two is to go into it and then make it more complicated than it needs to be. So there you go. There's a couple other things than what we've already touched on.
Love it. I love it. Yeah, do something. I mean, that's really could be applied to so many different things. But yeah, certainly if you listen to this, you took the time, do something, pick up the book, get an account. I mean, whatever it is, but yeah, get yourself moving, and then the rest of it will fall in line. David, this has been awesome. I really do appreciate you coming on and talking about this. I appreciate your passion to sort of getting the message out there and helping people. So thank you very much for spending your time today.
Thank you for having me on, and thank you for letting me spread that message more.
Yeah, absolutely. And folks, when you hear this, I'm sure you're going to like this. Definitely please check out his website, check out his book, and go ahead and like, rate, and review the podcast, and that'll help us spread this message more.
I'd like to show you why knowing your why is the start of your journey. Without a strong why, it can be so difficult to reach your maximum potential. My name is Dr. Jason Balara, and every week I meet with real estate investors and mindset specialists that are taking action in order to build a life according to their own terms. We will break down what drives successful people and allows them to achieve at such a high level. If you are a professional wanting to break through, or simply someone that wants to hear an inspiring story, the Know Your Why podcast is made for you.